In this video, I'm showing you how to change grey plastic into bases like this. Stay tuned for more about the Death Guard right after the intro. Hi ho and guten Tag. Welcome to a short video about bases for my Death Guard. I used the Sol Mortalis from Necromunda and started out giving them a dark grey prime. And afterwards I used Leadbelcher to dry brush the bases and, well, yeah, get a base to work with. Afterwards I prepared the danger stripes and based the area I wanted to have them in Averland Sunset. And now I'm using masking tape to prepare for the black parts of the stripes. That's what I'm doing here. I'm using a blister sponge and put some black on the parts I want to have black. Retrospective, I would rather choose now a more strong and, well, better covering black, like Abaddon black, instead of the black from Model Air, which is quite thin. In the next step, I used Agrax Earthshade to give the bases a first shade and get a first step of weathering. This is also to prepare for the next step, but you will see when it's time for that. And you can see that I improved the danger stripes a bit, because I wasn't particularly happy with how they turned out after the first step. If you have seen the first video about my Death Guard, you are already familiar with this one. This is Drinking Grime, a color based on enamel, which makes its solvent white spirit instead of water, like with acrylic colors. The big advantage here is, as I mentioned in my first video as well, that you can add and remove it as much as you like, basically. You're not bound to you know, the dry times and the stains and everything from the colors, you know, from the acrylic range. I would like to remind you to use enamel and white spirit only in well-ventilated areas, because the fumes, especially from the white spirit, are not very healthy for your lungs. But when it comes to weathering and, you know, having full control about the things you do, enamel is really the way to go. As you can see here, I'm adding and removing as much as I like. So back to acrylics, more specifically to Typhus Corrosion, which is a technical paint from GW and which serves as a basis for everything you want to rust. The difference to a regular brown color is that it leaves a rough texture, which sells the impression of a very rusty surface. Alright, next will be to adding some rust. I'm using Ryza Rust, which is a dry color from Citadel. And although it's a dry color, I'm using a sponge here to have a more, you know, vast effect on the whole surface than instead of small parts. And wherever I think it's too strong, I just, you know, use my fingers to wipe it away a bit. To refine it a bit and to reach everywhere I couldn't get with my sponge, I simply use a brush. And next, to further improve on the used look of the bases, I'm using Necron Compound and give the base a dry brush on all the parts where I think, you know, you would, you know, chip off parts of the metal or the paint. After adding the rust film, which would accumulate over time, I'm going to add some more recent rust, which usually gathers, you know, in nuts and bolts and rivets and all the corners where moisture and water would collect. For this, I'm using light rust from Vallejo Model Air, which is a quite thin color and is ideal to, you know, flow into all the recesses and nuts and bolts, as I mentioned, to simulate rust. Now it's getting slimy, and for this I'm using Moot Green by GW and a sponge again, surprise surprise, to cover a bigger area on the base and to get a sort of splashed out effect at the edges of the slime pool. And to have a more dense coverage at the entrance parts of the slime, and to reach all the parts I couldn't reach with a sponge, I'm of course using a brush. For more variation, I use a different color, this time white by Vallejo model again, because it's nice and thin. I'm adding, parts of this white to the slime pool. And as you will see in this part of the video, I'm going back and forth with the Moot Green and the white and some water to, get some sort of rough wet blend and to get a more organic feel to the slime puddle. Alright, and after adding the miniature, you should have something like this. Of course, after adding the protection varnish layer, I added some more technical or effect colors from GW, for example, blood for the Bloodgod, for the blood stains, and some Nurgles Rot with a slime puddle to make its appearance even more slimy. And as usual, if you like this video, leave a thumbs up or even subscribe to the channel, I would highly appreciate it. And I would say goodbye and auf Wiedersehen for now.